Hey. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Just to make sure that you guys did get a set of questions. The sheet should say Section 368 Energy Corridors, Regions 2 and 3 Regional Reviews. Does anybody need a copy of those? Does anybody need a copy of these questions? And I believe there's another big packet that has a few of the maps. Is there anybody need a copy of those as well? So just to let you know, my name is Becky. I work for the Forest Service, and this is Heather. And we also have Helen kind of doing some of the maps here on the board here. So basically, we're here to discuss the corridor 81272, yeah.
Sorry about the confusion. The other one's two maps, so it's behind it.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and start off and basically we've got a few questions that we can kind of try to help everybody to come up with potential answers or concerns. And we have an individual over here taking notes as well from the BLM. And so we're just going to go ahead and talk about what? The report out.
At the end, we have a volunteer that will take notes and then do the report out for the group. At the end, when we get back together, kind of talk about what was discussed in our group, if anyone wants to volunteer.
So what we want to do is make sure that all your voices are heard, and so we just need one representative to express what we talked about here. It's going to be, we're going to take notes. We'll have a bullet sheet. It's mostly just reporting out to the group. Here's what we discussed.
I would be happy to do it. Just if everybody gives me their notes.
Yeah, no, we'll take notes as we go, and so all you have to do is kind of report from that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the potential opportunity to realign with SunZia. And so, first question, can we better align the corridor with existing infrastructure? And so we're going to have some maps here for you. Talk about all the layers.
So that layer that I just clicked on and off is this approved SunZia route. And I'll submit.
Click it on and off again.
It's right on here.
Can everybody see that? I know.
Click it on and off again so people can see it.
It's kind of easier sometimes.
Because I think you guys y'all can't see it, right?
Can you see it? There, I'm clicking it.
Let's see if we can move this.
So it does follow, right here it follows 81-272, and then it deviates right here, where the current corridor goes up this way and ends right here.
I don't know if there's somebody here that knows more about SunZia. I mean, I'm from the Sabulfield office. The lead realty specialist is out of Santa Fe, but their purpose is to bring energy from wind farms in the eastern portion of the state west, California and Arizona. So they had to come from the east.
Okay.
Is that the final proposed route for SunZia? I know there's like as many as 7 at one point in time.
Yes, that's the approved right away.
Okay.
They do not have a notice to proceed yet, but they do. And just a little bit of background on that. There is a 5-mile buried portion there, and it also amended our resource management plan by 400 feet only in some areas.
That area is also an extension of White Sands Missile Range. They control that and have a lot of say in the management what goes through there. And their mission, Sunzia conflicted with their mission, so that was the proposal for the buried sections.
And where is that? Did you point to them?
I can't point it
Like
out. There's
up-
3 sections across that area right there.
This area, okay.
For a total of about 5 miles.
Yeah, so that's actually, it's in
500
it's in the
feet
restricted area that White Sands controls.
Correct.
In their safety buffer. It's not actually in the fence line of White Sands proper.
No, but
Yes.
that's part of their testing area.
Right.
They call it the northern forest
Yep.
area.
And so the mitigations for Sunzia revolves around White Sands and their mission. And any energy corridor in that area would have to have White Sands input and okay to put anything more there. The Sunzia is a 400-foot right-of-way corridor.
So now
And
mention,
smaller in places, it doesn't neck down in a few places across that east of the Rio Grande.
okay, so, tacking on to what he just said, is that going to be a good alignment?
Well, there's 2 500 kV lines that are approved to go through. So if you're talking corridor, I know here it says on our citing principles, the appropriate and acceptable uses that are defined for specific corridors. I don't see another transmission line being maybe designated there, but maybe a buried pipeline. I mean, that's only something you can look at. Because at what point, I don't know where you have saturation in a 400-foot wide corridor.
Sure.
Right, if they designated a corridor, it
If
wouldn't
you
be as 400
designate a
feet. It
larger
would be-
corridor, you're going to be looking at plan revision. And also you're looking at military. And the thing with Socorro and Catherine County for Socorro Field Office is the military is a big concern an issue because anywhere you look in Socorro and Catherine County, there's military airspace and training going on. Those are some resource concerns. We're wall-to-wall cultural sites. And the other major concern was, let's see, there was cultural, the military, and then we have Fish and Wildlife Service both on the north and the south. And the river is the migratory flyway, the central flyway for migratory birds.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is ACEC. You can see right here, this is the layer for areas of critical and permanent concern. So you can see that the current route goes through ACEC here and Cinzia avoids that. Also, the current route terminates just about at the wildlife refuge, whereas Cinzia goes around it.
And I used to work for Sevietta, so the issue with the Fish and Wildlife Service, I wish there was someone here that could speak for Fish and Wildlife Service. I don't know if they were invited to this. But the refuge was conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service by the Nature Conservancy. And the Nature Conservancy had a statement in the deed that said that they would use the refuge for research purposes only. And that any venture or for-profit ventures would not be looked at, or it could revert back to the Nature Conservancy. So that's the concern with the Fish and Wildlife Service for the Sevietta. Now that being said, I-25 goes through there, so there is Federal Highway Administration right-of-way within their right-of-way that potentially, I don't know how that works. Maybe they could go inside that Federal Highway Administration. I don't know.
I think it's this, yeah, right here. This is the highway. So that could be,
Yeah,
I
could that be a
think
potential
it can
route?
still be looked at, and maybe just that little adjustment on the ACEC there. Or
yeah,
or
maybe
planning
things go
to
down this way, maybe, to where the ACEC ones and see. Does anyone else have any other thoughts about Cynthia following this route? It sounds like it's a little bit more complicated than,
Anytime
the
you're
white
crossing the
sands.
river, or, those are the big concerns. The wildlife and the river, the airspace for the military, and the wildlife refuges on the north and south. And then, you know, you have to look at private landowners as well. Sunzia looked at, Jane, do you remember how many alternate routes they looked at when they first started this?
For everything.
There was a lot.
There was a
I mean,
lot. There
so
were a lot.
you
They
can-
tried to go on the other side of Wismar, you know, the east of Wismar, that didn't work out. Tried to go through Wismar, no way. Even following existing infrastructure and the highway through Wismar, that did not work out. It was not okay. And then even this is problematic because Wismar considers this their call-up area where they do exercises or whatever. And so that's why Sunzia agreed to underground 5 miles of the transmission line up there to try to get it through, rather than going way up north around the forests. There was another route looked at that we didn't actually analyze, the one that went, I don't know, it's not on here, but we didn't even analyze it because there were so many extra miles that added it. And then we looked at routes through Tucson too, that didn't go anywhere.
so I think that's why, you know, this is being proposed, can we reroute it along Cynthia, because it is the preferred route, they looked at a bunch of routes, same thing with South Line and 81-213 that they're looking at over there. It's a recently authorized route, maybe that's the first place to look if you're gonna look at rerouting.
But I don't think a corridor going to the east would be a good idea at all, where Sunzia is. Not a corridor, because there's nothing there now. This is Sunzia's going to build new through there, I guess. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether you want to designate a corridor, because it's still very problematic.
Yes.
Very problematic. The military's asking again.
And then there was, I believe in one of your samples, there was a suggested corridor along 380 and then tying into Sunzia, which 380 is just north of the Bosqueville Apache. That triangle, yeah, that's 380. But again, you're very close to White Sands Missile Range there, and you're still in there.
For all purposes, White Sands Missile Range runs north to Highway 60 and Mountain Air. Their call-up area and their control area runs all the way, I mean, from Texas border all the way to Highway 60.
Not
which
just this
is
little
off
box
the
right
state.
Yeah.
Now, if you look in Catherine County, you're looking at north-south corridor potential, but there's a lot more rugged terrain, and you're going to look at going through more Forest Service and more reservation lands. Also, I believe Kirtland Air Force Base, if there's someone here on this side, has military operations in that area as well, that already were looked at by 368.
Hey, is there any more possibilities for another route that you can think of? Better route?
There's another transmission line that they're working on right now called Clean Line Energy, and I'm not sure exactly where it runs, but you might want to check into that. I think it's more on the boundary of the Socorro County and Valencia or Torrance County there, and it runs through a lot, very, very little BLM, but it's called Clean Line Energy.
Runs from the wind farms in the east to Albuquerque. And it's proposed.
Is that the driver? Is that what we're, the source of energy is in east, northeast New Mexico, and they're trying to get it towards Albuquerque or Phoenix or somewhere?
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque mostly. And there's not any other routes other than this?
Not that I'm aware of. It could be, but I'm not aware of.
They probably looked at alternatives, but I don't know what those are. It's a state office.
What is it?
It's in why isn't that route, or why isn't that added to this? Is that a private
Clean Line Energy, is that a private endeavor?
No, it's a BLM project, and there's a national team lead on that one.
Was the intent to get that consolidated with the whole West Wide?
I'm not sure, but it has not been authorized yet, so they're just now analyzing it.
I was looking more for intent, as new things come up, or is the intent to migrate them to this giant one place?
I don't know. I don't know what the
Then why are
intent
we
is.
here?
Excuse
If
me,
anybody can put
I'd like
something
to hear
together.
this and I can't really hear.
Oh, what I'm
Yes,
asking
what
is-
you're saying is really important.
Yeah,
but
what I'm asking is, we just heard about a Clean Line Energy that might run
Is that Western
someplace,
Spirit? Are you talking about the
else.
Western Spirit project?
I'm not sure.
You don't know? But you're saying that it's been filed with the government?
Yes,
It might be.
we've received an application.
You received a SF-299?
Yes.
So it was left out? Well, let's see.
Well, that's my general
So-
question, are things going to get merged together, or is every time something comes up, there's going to be another route by
Well-
somebody else?
Exactly. One of our concerns as a realty specialist is we're identifying these corridors. When applications come in, we cannot force them to use a corridor. So we look at them on a case-by-case basis.
So just to make a point too, that's why we're here right now, to look at previously used routes. To encourage. Or to encourage.
So all we can do is beg people to follow this.
Use
Right.
existing, yeah.
Right, that's part of the designation for the corridors. The Forest Service and BLM were directed to recommend to proponents, project sponsors, to the first option use these designated corridors because they have been identified as the most optimal for these areas. That does not mandate that they actually use those corridors.
That's unfortunate.
So right now, we're trying to pull up a map that has the past, that's question number 2, whereas energy gone in the past in public and vicinity, and we're using the records from BLM, LR 2000.
So there's no power to enforce them using these vetted, agreed upon energy corridors. You know, every time it's going to be a new fight, yeah.
It's encouraged because
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
I don't think that that's a problem with this thing, from what I know. The problem in New Mexico is lack of east-west corridors. And what they unfortunately designated in 2009, before Clean Line or Lucky or anybody was formed, was north-south, because that's the only infrastructure that existed in New Mexico, the 345. So the wind is on the east, the best solar is north, and it's the lack of east-west corridors. If you could get that wind through a corridor to this, everybody would be really happy to use it. But you can't get.
And I'm being tenacious because the
Yeah.
part I'm interested in is this afternoon, and it's an east-west.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out what the boundary
Right,
is.
so that's the issue with this one. is
Now,
that They'd love to use it.
As part of this whole exercise of revisiting the corridors, we have an opportunity from this meeting and going forward to recommend or suggest adding corridors where, you know, back in 2009, when they were designated, there wasn't, you know, power, you know, possibly wasn't needed in, you know, east to west.
Right.
So, you know, we can look at it now and, you know, you can certainly provide recommendations on, okay, this is where energy is being developed, so Forest Service BLM, you may want to add the corridor here that
Oh, in
would
anticipation.
provide companies an avenue for more easier development.
Thank you.
As Jonathan pointed out, the White Sands Missile Range is a very large block for moving east to west into Mexico.
Sure.
And you see how far up it goes. It's not just southern New Mexico. And SunZia found out how difficult it is to go through their call-up area. And it's not just, there's a lot of issues up there, getting through there. But that's,
I was just hoping you'd tell me that a stronger muscle in getting people to comply than I hear.
No, because we have to, the proponent has their needs, and sometimes, you know, and we can't, you know, we listen to everybody. And when they express to us that this isn't going to work, and there's good reasons, technical reasons, then, you know.
We had somebody back there with a comment.
I was just going to say, and in conformance with the National Environmental Policy Act, our proponents can come in and they can just ask for the cinnamon and stars wherever they want. But we also have the opportunity to have a BLM alternative or a Forest Service alternative as well that we can analyze. We will push both or however many alternatives there are through the process and see what we can do to minimize all the impacts in each of the proposals as well. So it's not that we have this corridor, but this person wants it over here, and so we're not going to look at the corridor. We're going to look at all possible options, and we're going to really do our best to minimize the potential impacts.
And also, just one quick thing on just, you know, keeping projects along these designated corridors. You know, it's, I think what could be beneficial is just offering incentives to companies that are building that way. So faster permitting, whatnot, you know,
Well,
you're
and
getting
that's-
lower conflict, you're not gonna have a bunch of groups.
Again, in the programmatic EIS that was done to designate the corridors, you're essentially doing kind of the pre-NEPA work and designate an area that for the proponent, if you, the Forest Service and BLM are saying, if you, develop in this area, then the pre-work has been done, so potentially the project could be permitted faster. This is your basically most viable route.
Yeah.
And so we will push that. That will be the first option. But based on the complexity of the project, we could be talking about transmission or oil and gas, what have you. So based on the nature of the project, complexity, and other contributing factors, it just may not be viable for that corridor.
Yeah.
Though that is our first option for development. Yes.
And then also just through this regional review process, there is an opportunity to just hear more from the industry, what other incentives could make it more, could be easier for them to develop along those corridors. So I'm happy that industry will be at all these meetings.
That was another
These
question.
designated corridors are non-exclusive, right? Like most federal utility paths are, through federal lands are non-exclusive, right?
Correct.
And so do you believe that the first company such as SunZia to get rights through this corridor, does it have the right to block anybody after it from co-locating in the corridor?
No.
Because I would love to have a citation to that, because we have a project pending in a non-exclusive corridor that has a FONSI saying that updating transmission doesn't have any impact on biological, cultural, environmental. But yet the utility that is in the non-exclusive corridor is saying that it has the right to block anybody else from coming in. Where's the citation that says that?
Regulations, Uncle Sam likes to keep strings attached to, giving out any sort of rights or anything like that. So generally, I would say 99.9% of the time, the BLM or Forest Service is going to withhold the right to issue compatible rights-of-way in the future, and that it's not an exclusive right given to one entity or one individual. So I know that for the BLM, it's noted in CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. So,
And there's saying Forest Service.
It's due to FLIPMA and also our
It's due to
CFR.
what?
FLIPMA
Federal Land Policy Management.
Okay.
and 36 CFRs. And so if we could get a shot of like the whole line, please, that'd be great.
Yeah, we can start talking.
The SunZia final EIS is also online, and it talks about how it amended our plan. So there might be some language in there as to compatibility with other rights-of-ways, because it only amended the plan for 400 foot wide.
Did you say the programmatic EIS, is that what you said?
No, the final EIS.
The final
For
EIS.
SunZia is on the SunZia website. The link to it.
Excuse me, could you
you point out the interstate transmission line for oil and gas pipelines on that map?
So let me actually take off,
Because that's an east-west corridor.
There's a, I'm sorry, there's a petroleum line that runs north-south on the east side of the river, and then there's a natural gas pipeline that runs north-south on the west side of the river.
And there's one that goes right through the state, all the way east-west,
Is that petroleum
all
or
the way
natural?
from, through Albuquerque, all the way down to the Permian Basin.
That's an American pipeline.
do you know if it follows along the corridor or just?
There's
is
a,
yours
I
out
have the
to
map
the-
at home.
Okay. So
I
I
don't have it
can,
with me. But it seems to me, yeah, it seems to me that that would be a corridor. The issue would be whether or not you could run renewable energy along with gas.
Is that the corridor, the gas line that runs through Placitas, north of Albuquerque?
No.
East-west?
No, that's the, that's another one, but there's one that comes down out kind of near the Route 66 casino, and it heads more of a southwest a pattern, and it goes right down through the state. It seemed to me that that would be a corridor that would get your renewable energy up to where it needs to be.
Yeah, because something like what she's saying, you can certainly, in what we had earlier, you can co-locate both the uses. Of course, you'd have to have recommendations.
Because it's already, yeah.
It's already been disturbed area, correct?
Right.
Ellen, would you pull up quarter 89-271? Because that goes from Albuquerque down to Permian Basin. And so much on that, maybe we can simplify that just a bit.
so just so you know, the ones with the little dots, the lines with like the little, like here, these little, that's transmission, and the ones without it are pipelines. So, let me go this way.
Well,
Will you move it over to the east too, so we can see what's over in the east? There you go.
So does anyone see which one that might be, this, green?
no.
No?
So,
Or-
I'm sorry to interrupt. So Albuquerque down to Permian Basin, this quarter is 89-71, and I believe it does follow pipeline. I'm not aware how much renewable energy or other electrical transmission needs are present, but if you know that, those are the things that we're here to capture and to understand better.
Yeah, I have some maps at home that was given to me by the PRC,
Okay.
Pipeline Safety Bureau, and because that was a request we did, a request to them in regards to what their jurisdictions were in the state, and so that would be maybe a possibility of bringing renewable energy up from the east part of the state, but into Albuquerque. It seems like it's already a line that's there. It just depends on how wide that line is and whether it's something that's doable. It seems that there's a couple of them. The black one, is that what you're looking at? The one right there?
That's green.
Okay, or you were looking at the red
Yeah.
one to the south of that? That one. Which one?
Let me, I can pull it up.
Could you identify what those are?
This one?
These are pipelines here, the orange and...
Yeah, but it will say which one. It shouldn't. El Paso Natural Gas, 30-inch.
I think that's the Mid-American pipelines. So that starts in northwestern New Mexico. It travels all the way down. And I know at least in our field office jurisdiction, we have partners in the area
That's Enterprise products?
Correct, yeah. Enterprise, El Paso, like, kind of getting interchanged quite a bit.
There's an inherent problem with, well, it's kind of a disadvantage to the pipeline companies that when you cite electrical, like, so these are the things that we consider because we do reserve those rights that we talked about as far as issuing other rights away, but the key is usually compatibility, and because we don't want to infringe upon some sort of a grant that we've already given others. And there's just a general, there's a lot of maintenance with pipelines to maintain the integrity of them, and so when you have that induction of electrical lines, high voltage electrical lines, that can begin to erode and degrade the pipelines, and so that's just something that comes into play. There just needs to be a certain amount of separation. Not that you can't put them side by side, but there just needs to be separation.
I was reading about that, but I thought that, that these would be possibilities of bringing them in and in areas that are already existing, and then widening that space a little bit if it's possible to do that. But it doesn't seem like that has been an option here. So do we write it up on the board here?
Well, folks are capturing it as you're talking here too.
Okay.
I know we're trying to really get all those suggestions and information, and I mean, this is specific enough to where, if you draw it on that map, that would be a starter, but this has gotten more specific already, so that's great.
If I can piggyback on that,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have the pipelines running right through our community. They were put in 60 years ago, and now houses are right next to them. And there's constant maintenance there. Erosion is causing the pipelines to lift out of the ground, and they've increased the throughput, so it will be very unwise to add anything else there because you can't even run a lawnmower near them in a lot of cases. And that's the other east-west that's up farther north. So I'll add that. I agree that
There's
you have to be very
many issues to consider.
Yeah, have to be very careful to do that.
And specific to this corridor.
It just doesn't,
72.
yeah, whether or not there's HCA's along those lines, whether or not there's high consequence areas along those lines, then that would probably be something that would need to be considered because, you've got all the real stakeholders along there and to do something like that.
And both those lines, I believe, unless they go further east, come through Sevier. And that's the one.
Okay, so good discussions, thank you. So what is the trade-off between the proposed locations compared to the existing locations?
Question, in Sierra County, the energy corridor, Dog Lakes to the east, the Sunzia line continues down the western side of the river. Would there be a chance to align the corridor with the Sunzia line?
Let's make sure we all see where something is.
So Sunzia Dog Lakes right here.
Dog Lake, correct.
And it follows the river in the north or the south, or it's...
Here,
There's a
that's
corridor,
off and on. There's off, there's on, see that?
Could you show where this 272 crosses the river? If it does?
Doesn't, it goes, does it?
Yeah, your Sierra County
TRC.
in TRC. So is that already slated, or is that a blue line in there, or? So I don't know what the green line is.
This is the Sunzia, and this is the designated corridor. Right here. And this looks like it's a road. Yeah.
That's I-25?
I-25.
Is that I-25?
Yes.
And so they're saying they wanted a shortcut through to go over the river one more time in this new proposed, is this a new proposed line, the dark green?
The dark green is the designated corridor, it's already designated.
It's already designated. And the Sierra line?
The Sunzia is the new,
Or
it's
the
not
C-
built yet, it's the
It's not
authorized.
built, but it's authorized.
Right.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, can we align those two?
And what do you mean by that? By bringing the
Bringing the
proposed?
proposed line into the
This-
Sunzia
Into the same
corridor.
alignment, so that you wouldn't cross the river.
So you're asking if we can move the line or if we could move the corridor?
No, the corridor, so it doesn't
Oh,
cross the
okay.
river.
Our corridor. That's, you can recommend that?
And then what are the impacts, what are the impacts of that proposed line? Have that been established already in a?
I'm sure, I mean, it's been approved,
Okay.
just the notice to proceed hasn't been issued.
Oh, okay.
Let's zoom in and see if you can see the
Is there
map.
anything pending on these lines?
On the corridors?
Yeah, the corridors?
Don't know about this one.
No, Sunzia follows the corridor a little north of here.
Through the city as a corridor, that north and south, it follows the corridor, or the Sunzia follows the corridor until it gets south of Socorro, to that point where at D or C where they diverge, one goes east, one goes somewhere west.
So this part, there's nothing proposed down here.
Oh, okay.
But further up it joins.
Right in
They're
there.
north.
There. Follows it up here. And then it deviates here.
And then it crosses the river further up, is that?
And one of the proposals we made in Socorro was that the corridor, instead of doglegging north of Socorro, instead of doglegging to the west, and that it follows Sunzia's corridor, comes straight south through BLM, and ties into the Sunzia corridor, right there, pointing north a little bit, right there. Instead of doglegging, and where it skirts the ACECs for bighorn sheep and other.
Yeah, I can turn that on.
It just goes straight south.
Okay.
I think that was a
That's what I
proposal
was-
we put in during the review. Right.
Going here instead.
Till you get.
From 106 south to the Sunzia line.
Good discussion, thank you. Okay, so, I guess we need to have a little bit more discussion about the change it, and try to change the route. Because you had suggested, so it doesn't cross, go back over across, stay on that, the west side of the river. Right there. You may want to discuss anything more about that?
From what I understand, from about mile marker 0 to 29 right now, or 25 right now, that crosses through, according to the map, crucial habitat under the habitat assessment that you all did, and if you move it west to where the Sunzia is, it won't conflict as much with that region.
Pull that layer out too.
At least the last time, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but.
Here's the chat. Yep, so you can see this is the.
So the Sunzia doesn't conflict as much with.
Right.
That's very true. And you know, what else we can do is pull up our conflict map, which shows, kind of mapped high, medium, and low conflict based on different resources, just to give you a quick idea. And that is,
And also at that point, it begins to parallel El Paso Electric.
So this is high conflict in the red, so that would avoid some of that high conflict.
So where does it parallel El Paso
I
Electric?
think Jane said where it comes off and heads south, it follows El Paso Electric, which is a 345 Q.
There we go, right here.
Yeah, so see how it's tying into that purplish?
So there's already something there where SunZia is. The SunZia, you said is 400, somebody said 400?
Two 500 kV lines and 400-foot wide corridors, or 400-foot wide right-of-ways, and then El Paso Electric is 345 kV, one 345 kV, and I think their right-of-way is 150 kV.
The discussion, the idea that you had to move the designated corridor over to SunZia actually would work well from what I know regarding the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, the National Historic Trail. If you could put that layer on there.
Yep.
As we all know, the Jornada del Muerto, that the designated corridor crosses is really an incredible.
That's right here.
Yeah, thank you.
Those two.
Even though Spaceport America has been placed further to the north there, around those state lands, those blue lands, that whole area is still really, in my opinion, pretty pristine despite what Spaceport America did. So the point is that the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro is really pristine through that area, right where that corridor crosses. So moving it over to the left, to the west of the river on the SunZia corridor, at least would obviate that that particular impact to that trail segment.
That looks like a transmission line.
And for those of you that don't know, the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro is a national historic trail that is the royal road to the interior lands. It had a lot of American Indian use and Euro-American use, 300 years of use by commerce, traders. And it's an international trail from Mexico City all the way up to just north of Santa Fe. And the stretch through the Jornada del Muerto is really one of the most pristine stretches of the whole 2,400 mile route. 400 miles of which is located in the United States.
Okay, so another question we've got here is proposed location technically feasible for infrastructure development?
Seems like it.
Looks like it, we're going to be using an existing corridor. Cool. Would the proposed location create an unnecessary or undue degradation that could be avoided by the existing location? It does not appear to be so.
To avoid the habitat and the trails.
Right. Okay, could a new interagency operating procedure mitigate the issues at the existing location?
I want to point out that with part of this process, we recognize that no matter where we place infrastructure, there may be a level of impact, whether it's critical habitat or if it's crossing a national or scenic historic trail. I said that wrong, but we all know. So, like, if we are crossing a trail and with long linear features across vast landscapes, we're most likely going to cross and intersect at some point. So these interagency operating procedures are what I refer to as best management practices. How can we do that best? Where can we do that best? And those interagency operating procedures are are foundational to anything that's sited within a corridor. That must be, those procedures must be followed for some early and upfront coordination, ways to mitigate resource issues up front, micrositing, and so with that, that's kind of the context of this question, and sort of to the trails idea. Like, we are looking at ways to improve management practices about how, you know, authorizing rights of way within corridors or outside of them, but especially within, they're mandated to be used. And so just making sure that if there are certain impacts, that they're mitigated to the lowest possible degree. So the question, I guess, was, is there other best management practices we could exercise or entertain or propose as part of this effort to maybe address some concerns that you have in the room with your particular things? Lynn?
Just east-west, because the main corridors that were designated back in 2009 follow the existing major transmission in New Mexico, which was built to export coal to Albuquerque and El Paso. So since the renewable energy zones are on the eastern side of the state, what we're trying to do is figure out least impact ways to create a few east-west links in the state to get the renewable energy to the main energy corridors that allows it to be distributed throughout New Mexico and throughout the western states by repowering Four Corners with the gas, wind, and solar. So that's what I think, is that we got to look at east-west, how to get to all the work you've done.
And probably look at your compatibility policies with gas and oil. That probably needs to be dealt with a little bit better, because if you can't put, if they're not going to, the operators, do they own that line, or is this a federal property? You know, do they've gotten a right of way, and but you know, they don't own that right of way.
That's right.
And so you know, those compatibility issues need to be further examined, I think, because you know, I understand the safety issues around them, but I think they probably could do, they could use those corridors to get that renewable energy.
Yeah, we certainly don't preclude co-location or anything to that extent. It's really a matter of a case, on a case-by-case basis. It really depends on, you know, the situation, the project, the various environmental factors that come into play with, you know, what's being proposed and what's existing. And it's not a one-size-fits-all for sure. We certainly try to work through that with every situation.
Thank you.
And you have to remember, we have to remind ourselves as well, that we're constrained by designating on Forest Service managed and BLM managed lanes. And if you, look at the map, that's mostly towards the western part of the state. So that's why you see more of the north to south corridors. Certainly, we would want to support development going, east to west. We're just kind of limited by where the federal lands are.
And that's the yellow and the green. Yellow is the yellow and the green.
Is there a path of federal land through east to west?
Yes. But it's really short, like Lucky is
I
only
mean,
12
I
miles.
didn't look that hard at that BLM map, but it seemed to me that it was chopped up pretty badly, and but because of these transmission lines, I thought that might be a way of getting that right away.
It is a continual challenge. I won't sugarcoat it. With a fragmented
And then what about I-40?
Pardon?
Using the highway I-40?
I-40? Well, that depends with Department of Transportation, most likely, with federal highways. You know, if they have a certain width, usually 200 feet, maybe more in certain cases, of a highway corridor.
So you're only approving, you're only doing this for BLM and Forest Service. It's not any other, it's not really developing a tool for renewable energy corridors.
Correct. We are focused more on the BLM and the Forest Service lands because that's what the law mandated.
But we're
certainly-
talking about an energy corridor, if we shouldn't be opening that up, DOT should be in this room.
Well, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
So under the FAST 41 Act, you know, that the FAST Act, Section 41, certainly some of those large-scale energy transmission projects, above $200 million, which most will land in that range for a major infrastructure project, they will fall under a larger umbrella of the FAST 41. And
Because
that's
DOT is the one that manages those interstate transmission lines, and in order to use that, you would have to have their, probably have to go through approval process there, and, but how much of the BLM Forest Service land is along that interstate transmission?
There's like, it looks like none here, because it's yellow.
There's,
This is BLM.
There's none on I-40.
This is forest. Right. But to me, it doesn't look like any sizable amount.
BLM most likely has some subsurface mineral state jurisdiction that we maintain, but that doesn't necessarily allow us to get involved with the rights of ways above ground, across, or overhead.
But if there's already rights of ways existing there.
Your point is really well taken. Like it sounds like some engagement with DOT and federal highways may be very warranted. So that's the takeaway that I get from those comments. So I appreciate that.
Doesn't pipelines that stay within the state don't fall under DOT? Aren't they under, I can't even remember the acronym.
Well,
PRC.
Department of Transportation has many agencies within it, which one is the pipeline, PHMSA, I forget exactly, pipeline hazard and safety. Anyway, so they are a regulator for pipelines, but they don't grant the access rights of way.
Right.
It's more of a reliability.
It seemed like it was more, oh, okay, I got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So next question, is there a need to limit the mode of use for the existing and proposed corridor to mitigate the conflict? Okay, I guess no discussion, I don't think it does. Next question, overall, does the proposed opportunity make the corridor more viable or less viable?
What we were talking about is right here.
I think it's more viable as opposed to avoiding the critical habitat and the Queen of Rio.
Right. Did everybody hear that? No. She says, because it's going to be avoiding the critical habitat in the trail, the Camino.
The Sunzia right away is already been analyzed also.
Okay. Correct.
This report.
Okay, so what information about this corridor should be considered as the agencies move forward?
I think there still needs to be a lot of discussion with the military.
Okay. And then somebody mentioned the Federal Highway Administration as well.
And then one other thing that's important for Wilderness Society is just including data on all the wilderness quality lands and having that in as conflicts and looking into that to either avoid or mitigate.
Okay. That's a good point.
So there are a number of overlaps with citizen proposed lands with wilderness characteristics.
Right, and that's not on the.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else to add?
Do you know of anything in particular area?
Yeah.
For this corridor that
Yeah,
you
I have
proposed?
that's one example.
Okay.
And actually in meeting, I'm interested to see if that section actually is, if there's already existing transmission there. So
Okay.
it's milepost 85 to 91 was one area that we and our partners identified as a potential conflict. Because it seems like it's really
And what milepost is it?
It's 85 to 91. So if there's already development, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's that
Okay.
transmission line right there.
Okay. Where?
It's here, and it goes down, that pink.
Yeah.
And then it looks like there's something.
Yeah, I just wondered how close that got to the boundary of national forest.
But we also have data on all of the milepost overlaps with LWC, and that's what's in our comments originally, and we can share that again.
So for an example like this,
Yeah.
shifting a little bit,
Mhm.
perhaps.
Unless unless the development is already in that, overlapping with that section of the LWC there at the end. But if it's not, yes, then shifting.
The Sunzia corridor parallels the tri-state 345 KV line there, so they will be right next to
Yeah.
each other.
That's probably that pink line is the
Mhm.
open line.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have anything else to add to this? And so I don't know, what are we going to do after this? A little bit of a break?
So we're going to do about a 15-minute break, and if someone's been going to take the notes, we're going to put some bullets on the board for the report out during that break, and we can help with that. That's it. I mean, if you 15-minute break, and then come right back, and what we'll do is we'll probably move the chairs all facing one direction again.
So we have everybody back at 11:25, please.